Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Teacher, and today we'll be reading Bluegrass. To horse lovers, the word bluegrass conjures up a picture of Kentucky's lush, blue green pastures, home of champion racehorses. But to lovers of country music, bluegrass is a lively sound of fiddles, banjos, mandolins, and guitars playing together in rapid foot stomping, hand clapping harmony. Its roots go back many years to the Scottish and Irish immigrants who settled in the Appalachian region. These settlers brought their traditional tunes and songs with them. In the days before television, movies, and radio, families were obliged to supply their own entertainment. Anyone who could scrape a tune from a fiddle or warble a song would be invited to join in. So, we are not talking about the actual blue green grass from Kentucky where they raise racehorses, but we're talking about bluegrass, the music, the country music. This is a kind of music that started with Scottish and Irish immigrants who settled in the Appalachian region. So they, with their families would play music and sing songs together because then they didn't have television, radios, movies, nothing that they could watch, really. So they had to entertain themselves. So anybody who could sing or play an instrument was invited to join in the music. After the Civil War, African Americans freed from slavery found jobs in Appalachia. They worked as coal miners, loggers, and railroad construction workers. They also introduced their music to the people of Appalachia, bringing in the banjar, an African four-stringed instrument. The banjar was made from a hollowed gourd with a neck attached. Its twanging sound complemented the traditional fiddle so well that over time it was developed into the modern banjo. By the end of the 19th century, the guitar had been added, brought to Appalachia by city musicians traveling in bands through the region. All the components of bluegrass music were now in place. Its distinctive sound was beginning to emerge, although it did not have a name yet. So then, after the Civil War, African Americans joined into this bluegrass movement, right? They moved to the area where bluegrass was starting to develop, and they brought this new instrument with a nice twangy, sharp sound to it that we hear when we listen to bluegrass or country music. And then it continued to develop from there. The guitar came in, and now it was kind of the basic of bluegrass, but it wasn't called that yet. At first, the music coming out of Appalachia was ignored by most Americans, who criticized its lack of subtlety. They thought of it as music that would appeal only to rustics. This impression was often created by the musicians themselves. They enjoyed combining slapstick comedy with their musical medleys. The coming of radio in the 1920s put more emphasis on the music itself and brought it a wider audience and more general acceptance. Together with recorded music, radio offered greater commercial opportunities. Musicians were no longer content to play the fiddle or the guitar merely as a hobby. More and more began to make music their vocation or their job. Among them was Bill Monroe, who was born in western Kentucky in 1911. Bill showed his prowess with the mandolin at an early age. In 1938, he formed a band and named it after the nickname of his native state, the Bluegrass Boys. Over the years that followed, the name of Monroe's band lent itself to the distinctive sound he had created. Monroe and his Bluegrass Boys continued to perform until he was in his 80s, although he reduced the number of festival performances from 150 to 100 per year. On September 9th, 1996, 4 days before his 85th birthday, Bill Monroe died. So, Americans who heard this bluegrass music thought it wasn't very subtle, that it was only for rustics. It wasn't very classy or refined. But a lot of this had to do with the musicians. When they would play their music, they really liked to combine it with slapstick comedy or really exaggerated physical comedy, falling over on purpose, that kind of thing. But then when the radio started up in the 1920s, people were able to listen to the music without seeing the slapstick comedy. So it began to grow in popularity. People wanted to start playing instruments and playing music for their job. So then Bill Monroe came into the scene, and he was very good at mandolin from when he was young. He formed a band in 1938 called the Bluegrass Boys. So he played with his band pretty much all his life until his 80s when he just cut back on playing a little bit. And 4 days before his 85th birthday, he had died. Bluegrass festivals are held in just about every state in the Union and in many foreign countries. These musical events are not at all pretentious. In fact, performers mix freely with their fans. Those attending enjoy taking out their own instruments to join in impromptu performances held in any open space between campers. Many also come to pay homage to Bill Monroe, the father of bluegrass. So, ever since Bill Monroe, bluegrass has grown and grown in popularity, and these festivals are held often in the United States and even in foreign countries, but they're not pretentious, they're not fancy. It's not the performer and the audience, but instead, it's the performer mixes sometimes with the audience while they're playing, or people in the festival area will just play little concerts or play some music on their own, even in the audience or between campers. So it's a very fun atmosphere, very welcoming. Thank you for listening to this story today. We do have links related to each article. If you want the link for this story, you can find it down in the description below.